Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Please join me for a salute to the flag.
I said, you my best guy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks.
Before I make a motion to suspend the rules, the reason we will be doing that is we have a special presentation for our friends at the Good News Bible Chapel, and we're going to be entering into committee of the whole a little bit earlier than we usually do. That being said, I would like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the, now that we're operating under suspended rules, I'd like to approve the records of September 6th and September 20th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Madam Clerk, will you read the notice of the first public hearing, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Public hearings for October 4th, 2022. Public hearing pursuant to Section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro as amended to lay out a portion of Road Street, length of 244 feet, from Station 0 plus 00 to Station 2 plus 44 as a public way.
I apologize. Before we do the public hearing, we do have the presentation that I literally just alluded to.
Yep.
It's been a long day, folks. So I'm going to ask the Vice President and Councilor DeSimone to join me at the podium.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So we would like to have our friends from the Good News Bible Chapel join us up at the podium, please. How you doing? Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
We're presenting a resolution of the Attleboro Municipal Council proclaiming appreciation for Good News Bible Chapel. Whereas Good News Bible Chapel has been a valued member of the Attleboro community since 1935. And whereas Good News Bible Chapel provides a variety of important community services such as free weekly city supper through Food and Friends program, a rescue mission, nursing home outreaches, a recovery program, and a monthly clothing distribution. And whereas Good News Bible Chapel frequently collaborates with the Attleboro Council on Aging by providing complimentary use of their facilities for an assortment of events and programs for area seniors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Attleboro Municipal Council, with deep appreciation, does hereby and sincerely thank the Good News Bible Chapel for their long history of service to the community and their ongoing and generous support of the Attleboro Council on Aging. Adopted by the Municipal Council on this 4th day of October, 2022, signed by me, Council President Jay Delicio, and signed by Kate Jackson, City Clerk.
Pleasure being a good neighbor to you guys. Thank you so much. That's
Well, it's
very
greatly
kind.
appreciated, and the services you offer help the entire community, so.
Hey, we got a great church. Thank you so much.
All right, thank
very
you.
much. Thank you, Jim.
Right here.
Okay, so, Madam Clerk, now will you officially read the notice of the first public hearing?
I sure will. Public hearing
Thanks so much.
pursuant to Section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, as amended, to lay out a portion of Road Street, length of 244 feet, from Station 0 plus 00 to Station 2 plus 44, as a public way.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Anybody to speak in
Can't hear
favor?
what she's saying. We can't hear her.
We can hear her, yeah.
We don't know which street you're talking about.
Okay, so this is a public hearing pursuant to 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, as amended to lay out a portion of Road Street, length of 244 feet from STA 0 plus 00 to STA 2 plus 44 as a public way. So this is for Road Street?
Yes.
Okay, do we have anyone to speak in favor?
I don't know what the proposal is for. I mean, we came here to find out.
Why don't you come on up to the podium and we can talk a little bit about it, my friend.
We came here to find out what is entails.
Before we get going, can we just have your name and address for the record, please?
Annette Saroy,
Okay.
56 Clayton Street. We're on the corner of Clayton and Rhodes.
Okay.
Now, Rhodes has just been finished. It's a new street. So I thought it was already accepted as a street. That's why I don't understand what's being done.
Yeah, so this is to accept it. Does it make sense? Do you have anything you want to add? I know you used to be on zoning. Or should we get Gary? He can give specifics.
I think
Jay,
Councilor Conti is the vice chair of zoning.
I've got it, I'm getting it, I'm getting right to it.
If you can talk about,
Yep.
Yeah, it's just to accept it. It hasn't been accepted yet. So
Oh, it
this is
hasn't been
just to accept
accepted
it in Councilor Blair.
we do this periodically.
Sure.
We used to be way behind on it at one time. But by accepting the streets, we get Chapter 90 money.
Yep.
So all new roads that are put in have to go through the acceptance program. So we
But they're
can
not
look,
changing anything on the street.
No, there's not going to be a.
That's what I wanted to
Okay.
know.
No,
Thank you.
that's a great question to ask.
Well, because we don't want it to go through to the next street up.
Yeah, nothing's going to
No.
change. So, I'm sorry, I misunderstood exactly what your question was. So yes, this is just to accept it as a public roadway.
Oh, thank you.
Nope, you're quite welcome. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Councilor Conti, do you see a reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not see a reason to keep it open.
Thank you. I declare this public hearing closed. Madam Clerk, will you please go to the reading of the second communication?
Yes, sir.
Hearing, rather.
Public hearing pursuant to section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro as amended to lay out Steeplechase Circle, length of 3,700 feet from station 0+00 to station 37+00 as a public way.
And this public hearing is the same as the other to accept, however, this will be Steeplechase Circle. So do we have anyone to speak in favor? Please approach the podium one at a time. We'll have people come one at a time, please. We'll have you give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Smith.
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing?
Good. And what's your address, Kevin?
85 Steeplechase Circle, Unit 1.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good.
1,000,000% in favor. Can I be 1,000,000% in favor?
I'll allow it. I'll allow 1,000,000%.
You will? Okay, thank you. I appreciate
All
it.
right.
No, we're in favor. We're also looking for street lights ultimately, but we thought the street at one point was accepted and found out it's not. So
Okay.
we're in favor. And I got a slew of others that want to come and talk.
Yeah, does anyone, if anyone has anything that they'd like to add? Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, my name is Osama Gadi. I live in 55 Steeplechase Circle. And again, yeah, we've been waiting for this to...
Excuse me, folks, I'm sorry, we're having a hard time hearing the speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in favor for accepting Steeplechase Circle.
Okay.
And yeah, we've been waiting for a long time, you know, for the lights. Usually we need more the lights more than...
Yep.
Because some area of the streets, they has lights. And when we requested that, you know, the rest of the street to have lights, they said the city, they said, no, the street is not accepted yet. So, yeah, you know, we are in favor of getting the street accepted and going forward with getting a street lights because it's too dark and too risky for the children to be around.
Yeah, so the streetlights would have to be
Yeah, I
something different,
understand.
but I think the first step is getting it, excuse me, accepted.
I do understand, yeah.
Nope, but I appreciate you coming down. Do we have any questions for the speaker? All right, thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor?
Paul Gilio, 98 Steeplechase Circle.
Good
I
evening.
was just curious to know where the 3,700 feet is.
We can find exactly what that length is and where it is. I don't know that, Counselor, do you have that in your packet?
You know, I was just looking for it because I thought it was in the last mayor's communication, but I think it was 2 communications prior, and I don't have that with me. I apologize.
Nope, no worries. What we can do is we can take that as a takeaway, get in touch with the city planner and have him reach out to you. If you could just leave your name and phone number or even email with our assistant in the office, you can go in right around. She'll be able to get that and we can get that information to you.
And this has nothing to do with any future developments coming in or?
Nope, as my colleague explained, this is for city road acceptance, and which will help you allowed to be able to get city services as well as.
Take care of the roads and
Correct.
sidewalks and whatnot.
Yep.
Great, all right, we're all
Allows
for
the
it.
city to get more funding from the state to help upkeep those roads that we're accepting tonight.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank
I have
you.
a question. Sir, your question about the 38 feet,
3,700.
3,700 feet, that's the length of the amount that we're accepting. So that's the number of feet that we're adding to the number of roads in the city of Attleboro officially for state funding each year.
So a portion of the street is already accepted, but the 3,700 feet, do we know from like what address to what address, or?
Here's what we can do. We can answer your questions.
Need my name?
Nope, even better. What we'll do is, as soon as you're done, I'm gonna ask our city planner to come up, and if he doesn't mind, and just be able to provide some sunlight.
Awesome, thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Rajan, you might be the most popular person in the room right now.
Hey, here he is.
I figured I just got on one meeting, I figured you might have some questions.
Yeah, appreciate it, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Everybody.
Hey.
Gary, you know the routine name, please.
Gary Arazian, Director of Planning and Development for the City of Attleboro.
So the question was raised exactly where about on Steeplechase does that 3,700 feet begin? So-
What was it, 37, what?
The length of 3,700 feet from station 0.00 to station point 37 is a public way. Is that the entire street? Is
Yeah,
that a
so it
portion?
would be, depending on where you're coming in from Bishop Street, let's say you're coming in from Park Street, you make a left onto Bishop, so you make a left onto Steeplechase. Right at that intersection, 0 plus 0, 0. You go up a little further, you take a right, go over the bridge, then you go around the entire ring, and then you come back out and it closes the loop. That's the loop. So when you drive in, on the left-hand side where you have those condominiums,
Yep.
that driveway doesn't count. And the driveways inside the ring road, those won't be accepted. It's just the outer loop,
The road, not the driveway.
because that was all laid out on the subdivision control law.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you're quite welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I'm sure I spoke to some of you on the email, so, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Gary, any questions for Gary?
I just have one.
Yep, Sarah Lynn.
I know this doesn't really count right now, but a couple of these people that live there were talking about lights. When would they go, how would they approach that?
Yeah, sure. So that was the impetus of getting this
Getting this first.
accepted before the act that we just passed.
Yep.
So Mayor Haru put me on a short lease, get this accepted so that we could start on the streetlights immediately.
Okay, so does that answer your question? Great. Thank you,
Oh,
Gary.
how you doing? I already spoke with him at North, so
Perfect.
I promised him, I said, as soon as the council takes the vote,
Yep.
we'll get on the streetlights.
So we'll look, just for everyone in attendance, we're gonna look to close the public hearing tonight. It'll come out in front of the committee next Tuesday night, and then 2 weeks from tonight, hopefully it'll be voted out in front of the council. And then we'll take the next steps of getting the streetlights.
So we're accepted?
Yes.
Not yet,
Not yet.
but 2 weeks,
Okay.
okay? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Gary, thank you.
Thank you so
Certainly
much.
appreciate it.
Gary?
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Council Conti, do you see any need to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I declare this public hearing closed. It will come out of committee next week and then in front of the full committee 2 weeks from tonight. Okay. Madam Clerk, will you please read the communication for the third public hearing?
Yes, sir. Public hearing to discuss amending Chapter 9 licenses and permits of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro by adding Section 9-48 Humane Pet Store.
Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in favor? Please approach the podium, and we'll have you give us your name and your address, please, for the record.
Good evening, Melissa McIsaac, 22 Falcon Drive in Attleboro.
And you're in favor of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Melissa McIsaac. As I mentioned, I am part of the Humane Society District Leader, and I'm here to provide testimony on the overpopulation of guinea pigs in the shelters causing problems with other animals and so forth. And although guinea pigs are amazing animals, a lot of people go in blindly when they adopt them, and they don't realize what they're all about, and it's causing people to surrender them in droves. From my research, I've discovered there's two main problems presently with this. Number one, in general, people go into pet shops and adopt by looking at a cute and cuddly guinea pig, not realizing what it's all about. A lot of people do this, and then the work that goes with it, they're just not up to the task. Number two, the other situation is the pandemic. People were adopting guinea pigs and animals in droves when they were at home, and now they're all being surrendered. So we have multiple situations going on, causing the shelters to be overpopulated with guinea pigs as well as many other animals. So my experience with guinea pigs, I wound up doing the same thing. Admittedly, I went into a pet shop 2 years ago and adopted 2 guinea pigs, not knowing the difference at the time. I'm part of the general population. The difference was I did accept the amount of work that went with them, and I went with it because I'm an animal advocate and I do respect animals. But a lot of people aren't in the same situation. What causes this? The people to surrender guinea pigs. From my research, I can outline what happens. Number one, guinea pigs are very expensive animals to feed, probably more than a dog and a cat. They, as the name implies, a guinea pig eats constantly. And they will let you know they eat fresh vegetables all day, lettuce, grain, and hay, and those are all very expensive. When people learn how expensive it is, they're not always up to it. Number one, vet bills are very, very expensive for these animals, and they're considered an exotic pet. People don't know that when they adopt, and the pet shops aren't letting them know. So they can be more expensive than a regular dog and a cat, as I also found out when I took my guinea pigs for eye infections. And insurance is very hard to find for the animals. They're very high maintenance. Again, they make a huge mess, more than a dog and a cat, much, much more, and this physical labor, and they're time consuming. They require grooming and nail clipping and many vet visits. So anyway, that outlines why they may wind up in the shelters in droves. So all in all, guinea pigs, as well as many other animals, they're high maintenance, costly, and they take a lot of time to care for. So do you think I'm posing this question to everybody, do you think people are up to the task of taking care of these guinea pigs with the cost, the maintenance, the time, and all that? Probably not, unless you're an animal lover like I am. I was up to the task, but not everybody is. And do you think that the pet shop is going to tell all this when they adopt? No, they're not. I did do some research about what the pet shops tell us, and there is information on the website about a little bit about the maintenance involved, but not a lot. I had to dig because I wanted to give that to you. It is there, but not everybody is going to take the time to find out what these animals are about. So all in all, the guinea pigs are causing a huge problem in the shelters, a lot of money. It's very unfair to the workers. And the sanctuary up in Salisbury is having a real rough time right now, knowing what to do with all the guinea pigs coming in, and they come in every single day. So that's my testimony, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Vice President Cobus, Council Conti, Council DeSimone.
I just had a quick question. Do you have any numbers or know when you say they're overrun with the guinea pigs? Roughly how many is that? And
that is a very good question. I'm going to pass it on to Ally, another one of our members of our group. And
I was just curious if we had data.
yeah, I think one of them might have that statistic, and
Okay.
that's certainly
That's my only question.
Great.
very important. So I'm going to pass it on. Ally Blank.
Sure, when they come up
next.
to speak, we can ask the question again. Thank you. Councilor Conti.
Melissa, you're a district, Humane Society district leader. Does your district include Attleboro?
Yes.
And how long have you been a district leader of Attleboro?
About 3 years.
And during that time, have you observed specific instances of what you're speaking of in Attleboro?
Of guinea pigs being surrendered. Well, I adopted 2 guinea pigs that were in tough situations, so people that shouldn't have had them. I personally have not, but we're going to look at some numbers, some real numbers coming up
Thank you, Ms.
from
President.
others.
Welcome. Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, President Delicio. Melissa, thank you for coming. In my house, we have 3 rescue guinea pigs. So I vouch for, I have experienced everything you've said, and then some, and my daughter is a huge animal lover. My question is, what is the lifespan for a guinea pig that's well taken care of as
Right.
ours are?
I've read up on that. It's 8 years, and that's a little bit generous, I think. I read 5 to 8, and I'm hoping mine will live a long time. I have 2 that I adopted from the pet shop and 2 from a house that they shouldn't have been in. They were rescued. And again, they went into it blindly, and they realized once they acquired the guinea pigs that they couldn't afford the food. And I know that I spend a ton every single week on guinea pig food, vegetables.
Hay,
They very expensive, but
agreed.
because I'm crazy about the guinea pigs, I put up with it.
Yes, agreed. Thank you very much. Thank you, President Delicio.
Quite welcome. Any additional questions? Thank you. And Melissa, if you have written comments, if you wouldn't mind just dropping them off in the in Virginia's office so we can add them to the record.
Okay, I do have my script, if you want that.
Yeah, that'd be great. You can go right into the council meeting room and Virginia can take those for you.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
The Ally's on her way up.
Okay. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Allison Blank. I am not an Attleboro resident. I am a representative of the Animal Rescue League of Boston. But in my defense, I did grow up in Rehoboth, right over the line at Briggs Corner. So I actually did buy a guinea pig. Well, I didn't. My parents did when I was younger from the Petco in Attleboro, and can speak not just as a representative of the Animal Rescue League of Boston, but also as a former guinea pig and now a cat owner from a rescue. So a lot of our testimony is in different parts, so if there's something that I don't answer, someone else will likely mention it later. So the Animal Rescue League of Boston, we do have shelters in Boston, Dedham, and in Brewster. We also have statewide humane law enforcement that investigates animal cruelty cases, so we are around the Commonwealth, including in Attleboro. In terms of the issues that Melissa spoke to with guinea pigs, they are a very low-cost animal in these pet shops. People often see them and think that they are low cost, low maintenance, and unfortunately the opposite is true. They are an exotic animal, so when it comes to veterinary care, it's much more expensive. You may not be able to have your standard veterinarians take care of them, and the complications that they can have from even really minor things can add up very quickly. For example, we had a guinea pig who we had bought from Petco who seemed to be perfectly healthy in the store. About a year and a half later, this guinea pig developed a tumor, had to get surgery, had some really horrific complications from it, and passed very, very sadly. And this is just something that we weren't really expecting. You see these animals in the store for nominal amounts of money, even excluding this large amount of veterinary care that you may have happen. Just the cost of these animals regularly and the type of care that they need is something that's often not communicated throughout the pet shops. When it comes to other pet shop bans across the Commonwealth, we have seen successful partnerships with shelters and rescues. We regularly work with with pet shops such as Petco and PetSmart to put our dogs and cats in there, and it works really well. Most of these pet shops, nationwide, have moved away from selling dogs and cats because that's not where they make their money. It's a one-time purchase. They really make their money when it comes to supplies, to food, to toys, to training, enrichment. So in terms of the financial impact of instituting a ban on the sale of dogs, cats, rabbits, and guinea pigs, it's really not impacting the bottom line of these stores because they can still partner with a local shelter or rescue to provide these animals, and then people come back to get the supplies that these animals need. When it comes to the number of guinea pigs in our shelters, they far exceed the dogs and cats that we have. They are, guinea pigs, rabbits, the smallies as we call them, are some of the bulk of the animals that we get in the shelter, and additionally they also have a longer length of stay than dogs and cats. People don't always come in looking for these animals, especially because they can just go out and buy them. So unfortunately, these animals tend to spend much longer in the shelter, which is much worse for their mental and emotional health, which can then lead to them having complications when they are adopted as well. So I am happy to answer any questions that you have. Like I said, others will speak to more specific provisions, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Vice President Kobus.
Quick question. We've talked a lot about cats, dogs, and guinea pigs. I believe that's all that's covered by this, or was there any consideration for birds? And is that a equal problem? Why were those excluded, and is that a problem as well?
So I can't speak to the specific drafting of this. I will say there are a number of municipalities around Massachusetts that have instituted similar bans. Cambridge is the only one that bans the sale of all animals. Others have really focused on those that are in the shelter, that are really clogging up our shelters and that are not finding homes. I cannot speak to if there is a bird issue in Attleboro, but birds are definitely less of an issue than these small animals. But certainly, we've seen in some places where they have gone and banned, the sale of dogs and cats, and then said this has been successful, and then seen that other businesses have cropped up or that there's issues with other businesses and expanded that. Because again, pet supply stores, they're making their money on these recurrent sales. They're not really making their money on the sale of the individual animal.
Thank you.
Councilor DeSimone.
Yes, so thank you. So, in addition to 3 rescue guinea pigs, we have 2 rabbits, and that's 2 left. So we had adopted rabbits before the pandemic and privately, but one of the things that we experienced is that they were missexed and they wound up reproducing. So in a very short span, we went from 2 rabbits to 4 rabbits to 11 rabbits. So I fully appreciate that. And I guess I wanted to ask you, do you find that missexing is an issue and that people go home and wind up having the rabbits multiply, and then you have to be able to adopt them, et cetera, et cetera? But is that an issue that you see?
You are not the first person to say that to me. It definitely happens. I don't have exact numbers on how frequently that happens, but it's certainly something that is not uncommon by any means. It's not uncommon in that way, and it's uncommon in ways that are not, that we don't see in other animals and in other places. You don't go to a shelter and adopt a dog or a cat and find out that it's, something you didn't expect. And with spay and neuter for dogs and cats as well, it's just not an issue. So these smaller animals, the missexing them really can have consequences.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Thank you, President Dosio.
Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Dosio. I want to say thank you very much. I'm a big advocate for rescues, and so my Facebook page is loaded with it. I have 3 dogs, 2 cats, and I don't know what else is running around my house. So all your work, you do a lot of, I appreciate it all. Kim Penk does incredible work for the Attleboro shelter, and that is applauded for all her years of hard work and everything, and her staff and all the volunteers over there. They're incredible. And I am never more than happy to not see any animals whatsoever in a pet store. I avoid pet stores because of that. So would it be more of an avenue of like guinea pigs and hamsters and others would be handled more through rescues, and are they going to be set up to be able to sort of take care of that and help with that? And
so we've seen, we right now in other municipalities, we partner with them. So we actually display the animals in the Petco or the PetSmart, and they're able to actually take care of the animals there depending on the circumstances. But we have this this practice already in place, so it's not like they would have to take the animals out of our shelters, and I apologize, it's not like they would have to take the animals from the pet shop and bring them back to the shelter at night. They would be able to sort of care for them in the same place, but people would still be able to go to one of these pet stores and buy and adopt an animal. It would just be that the animal is coming from a background where it really needs a home, and it's not breeding for the sake of profit.
Yeah. What now?
Councilor Angelo?
I'm sure. I'm sorry.
That's right.
I just one last one. I'm sure there's funding, but is there availability for more state funding for all of this to help the rescues that everybody can say to work towards? Maybe Rep. Hawkins or Senator Feeney or anything like that the state could possibly do.
So we work very closely with both Rep. Hawkins and Senator Feeney. They're both great on animal welfare issues. In terms of funding, most of the funding that we seek, we are a nonprofit. Most of the funding that we seek is for spay-neuter and for wellness for owned dogs and cats, but that helps keep them off the streets because it helps keep overpopulation. So that's certainly something we always explore, and I believe both of them have been very supportive in the past on that. So we certainly look to continue that in the future.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Ellen, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor?
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Harris. I'm the Senior Legislative Affairs Manager for the Animal Legal Defense Fund. I live here in Massachusetts, but not in Attleboro. The Animal Legal Defense Fund is a national animal advocacy organization dedicated to protecting the lives and advancing the interests of animals through the legal system, including by supporting local laws to close the puppy mill to pet shop pipeline. Virtually all animals that are sold in pet stores come from these commercial breeding facilities, often called mills. They prioritize profits over welfare, producing large numbers of puppies, kittens, rabbits, or other animals as quickly as possible. And although commercial dog breeding facilities, cat, rabbit, and guinea pig breeding facilities are regulated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture under the Animal Welfare Act, the standards of care are generally inadequate, and inspections are infrequent and insufficient, which allows facilities to get away with conditions that don't even meet the minimum mere survival standards. USDA standards allow dogs to be kept in cramped, stacked wire cages for their entire lives and in extreme temperatures for long periods of time. They do not require access to the outdoors for exercise nor socialization. Mother dogs are typically bred as early and often as possible, and sometimes surgical births are performed by people without veterinary training. Dogs are often overbred and inbred, and puppies are typically taken from their mothers at a very young age. These puppies often have genetic disorders and exhibit behavioral and psychological problems from being weaned too young and lack of early socialization. Additionally, the USDA does not require that dogs be provided with regular veterinary care or be vaccinated against many highly infectious and deadly diseases. Puppies often suffer from distemper, respiratory infections, mange, and various parasitic disorders. So even if a commercial breeding facility complies with all USDA requirements, which is unfortunately rarely the case, a breeder can keep animals in extremely inhumane conditions and even jeopardize the health of the people in the puppy mill to pet store pipeline, as well as families purchasing or even just interacting with these puppy mill puppies in pet stores. The CDC has investigated 2 recent outbreaks of a multi-drug resistant bacterial infections linked to contact with pet store puppies. More than 150 people across 20 states, including Massachusetts, were sickened after contact with pet store puppies. Dozens had to be hospitalized. It's not surprising that a virus linked to pet store puppies is resistant to common antibiotics. It's unfortunately a common practice for puppy mills and pet stores to overdose puppies with antibiotics to hide sicknesses. Very few Massachusetts pet stores, as you've heard, still sell puppies and kittens. Most large chains and small mom and pop shops are successful without selling these animals. Although there's no pet store currently selling puppies, kittens, or rabbits in Attleboro, there's currently no regulation in place to prevent the sale of these animals in the city. This ordinance would prevent pet stores from coming into town to sell mill animals, protecting both animals and public health. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Councilor Conti, Councilor Angelo.
Stephanie,
Yeah.
you're with the Legal Defense Fund, correct?
Correct.
What's your position with them?
I'm a senior legislative affairs manager.
And have you heard of any Attleboro affairs with the Legal Defense Fund, where they've been involved with anything in Attleboro?
No, not that I'm aware of, not in Attleboro.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Quite welcome. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delacio. Thank you for everything you do. I really appreciate it. And I would expect the council to do the right thing and get this taken care of. What are you doing for other cities in the state to possibly, for them to continue doing what we're going to be doing shortly?
Yeah. So over the years, I've been glad to work with some of the colleagues that are here today to help pass these local laws in a number of Massachusetts cities and towns. I believe my colleague that's coming up next will go through a list of those. It's something that the Animal Legal Defense Fund has prioritized over the years in Massachusetts and beyond. I've been very grateful to be a part of efforts in numerous towns and cities in Massachusetts to pass these local laws to protect puppies.
Thank you.
And we'll continue to do so, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. If I'll have the same request, if you could just drop your written comments to Virginia in the council office, that'd be appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor tonight? Please approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is Kara Holmquist. I'm the Director of Advocacy at the MSPCA. Thank you, Chair Delicio and members of the City Council for hearing this today. The MSPCA operates several animal shelters, several veterinary facilities. Unlike the Animal Rescue League, we have statewide law enforcement. And I work in the advocacy department to work with residents of our communities who want to pass stronger laws in their communities and across the state. And as the MSPCA, because we have all these different departments, we see firsthand what happens when people purchase an animal from a pet shop that isn't healthy. We see that in our hospitals at Angel Animal Medical Center. They frequently call me when an animal comes in and people are devastated. I get these calls just directly to my desk for people who have purchased an animal that they've fallen in love with that ends up being very expensive or unfortunately sometimes not treatable and at a loss of what to do. The state regulations are very poor. There's not a lot of recourse. It's really sad to hear from those folks. But we also, as my colleague Allie mentioned, we're at a time now where our shelters are really seeing the impact, particularly with rabbits and guinea pigs. They have increased so much, and this ordinance, it impacts dogs, cats, rabbits, and guinea pigs. The animal that we're talking about a lot today is guinea pigs, because dogs, cats, and rabbits aren't sold from pet shops right now in Attleboro, so that part would be preventative. But our cages are full, and not just the MSPCA, but across the state, our colleagues at other places are full with rabbits and guinea pigs. We did some data crunching. I mean, to answer your question, our numbers are about 500 to 600 guinea pigs for intake. Almost 60% of those that aren't abandoned or stray, come from pet shops. So we know that when they're purchased from pet shops, they're not staying in their homes for the long term. So that's a bulk of where they're coming from and why our members in Attleboro have talked to us about this and have looked at the other communities. There's 10. I know Stephanie said I would mention them, and I'm not going to get them all, but we were in Springfield. Springfield passed it, Boston, Cambridge, so some major, some large cities. Pittsfield, North Adams, Plymouth, Marshfield, and I'm missing some place in there, I'm sure. But it's definitely been growing, and as more and more cities or towns do that, and I think it's important too that as that happens, we're opening up places where, the proactive nature of this is helpful, because then, as these pass, the places that don't have something can open up and somebody would want to move in there. the ordinance has been really drafted carefully. I've worked on this, and we've learned a lot from the cities and towns where we've been so far. So we really feel it's a very strong draft in terms of the definitions and exactly doing what we're saying that it should be doing. It doesn't impact breeders at all, so anybody locally breeding will not be impacted. And when a city or in a town, passes something at their town meeting, which some of these municipalities have been towns, and it goes up to the Attorney General. And so the Attorney General has vetted this and looked at it, and it's in line with any state or federal laws. So it's been checked that way, and I just mentioned that. I know the city doesn't have to send them, but it has been vetted that way. I've also reached out personally to the cities and towns that have passed similar measures and talked about post this passing, how has enforcement been? Has it taken any time? Has there been any unintended consequences or costs? And really, it's gone extremely smoothly. There's really been very minor effort, if anything. So we're hoping we checked all the boxes, and thank you again for your time, and hope you look favorably upon this ordinance.
Vice President Kobus, then Council Conti, then Council DeSimone.
Thank you. And thank you for answering the question about the intake of 500 to 600.
And that's just from ours, the MSPCA.
So can you quantify that? Is that 500 to 600 guinea pigs throughout the state per year, or?
It's a good question. So there's really no statewide data gathering for a lot of things that I wish there was on animals. So I could work to get that for you in terms of reaching out to the shelters across the state to try to ask them how many they take in. There's nothing that is reported to the state on guinea pigs. So those are just our 3 shelters, and not everybody deals with guinea pigs, but there's over 400 shelters and rescues registered with the state throughout the state. So ours represents just a small portion, and we know the larger shelters across the state are experiencing the same thing. So I'm sure there's thousands, but if that's something that the city council wants, I can certainly go back and make an effort to get some more numbers.
I was just trying to quantify the 500 to 600 numbers. So that's just your shelter.
That's just
per
3
year?
shelters. 3 shelters per year.
Okay.
In the most recent years,
Council Conti.
Sarah, thank you. The MSPCA, do you happen to know how many members in Attleboro you have in your organization?
Yes. Well, we have a list. Many of folks that I've talked to, and some that are here today. We probably, I didn't look at it as a couple pages of a Google spreadsheet, so probably over 100, around 100 or so folks that, and those are just folks that are particularly interested in sort of policy and advocacy issues. That doesn't include donors or people who have adopted or people who go to our Angel Animal Medical Center.
It's a large organization, the MSPCA. It's in Massachusetts, correct? It's how large an organization?
Well, we have 3 animal shelters, 2 animal hospitals. We also have a lot of 3 partnerships with vocational schools where we're training students to be veterinary assistants and veterinary technicians. We have statewide law enforcement, so they cover, there's about 8 officers that cover the whole state, and then advocacy. So we have,
Sarah,
it's pretty big.
In your advocacy, in addition to coming to cities and towns for this issue, do you also do legislative visits to Beacon Hill to try to push legislatures?
Yeah, we do. We work both on mostly state legislation and then local legislation too. And we don't have an office in Washington, D.C., so it's really mostly at the State House.
And so is it your opinion that if Attleboro were to adopt this humane measure, that it would assist you in the state to get a statewide law?
One would hope. Anybody's guess as to what happens on Beacon Hill, you don't know. But I think it sends a message. I think, it shows that communities care about their animals. And, I think we've seen it with other measures that if once there is momentum and showing a lot of people care about something, it certainly can send a message to the State House. I've been doing work like this for a long time, so sometimes it doesn't necessarily prompt things to happen, but I think, working at things and growing support within the community, it certainly does send a message, and we hope it does.
2 final questions. Sarah, how long have you been doing this?
So about 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
Last question. Are you seeing any progress?
So, yeah, sometimes I don't tell the truth on that one, but yeah.
My last question, Sarah, is are you seeing any progress?
You know, yes, absolutely yes. I feel that when I first started, you know, sometimes we walk around the State House and kind of not be laughed at, but not taken seriously. Now we have elected officials that reach out to us, really want to take on our issues, animal issues. I think that more people are aware of just the ways that maybe we didn't think about before about how animals can be harmed, you know, and some of the industries that contribute, and just thinking more critically about all the ways that we interact with animals. So I think it's hard a lot of days when things go backwards a little bit, like in the pandemic and some things that we're seeing now, and people struggling, you know, with inflation and to take care of their animals. I think that can be hard, but overall, I do think we're making progress, and I hope the MSPCA and all the advocates feel that, you know, the things that we do with people in the community are really a part of it. And yeah, I hope we're making some difference.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Mr. President.
Quite welcome. Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, President Delicio. First of all, thank you for all your good work, and to all the animal lovers here. So rounding out the crew at home, we have 2 rescue cats and a rescue dog. And so what I'm wondering is, I go to the pet store all the time for pet supplies, or we buy them online. Pet supplies is a huge and booming market. So I'm wondering, in the communities that have banned these pets and others, and the pet shops that have then said, okay, fine, but we'll hold adoption events, they must be seeing increased sales. Well, and they're doing trainings as pets, because we took the dog to be trained at the pet store. So there's a rebound effect, right? So you take away the pet selling, but you get back, I would imagine, increased gains in the products and the training and all, and the grooming and all the other things that come along with the pet, right?
Absolutely. Of like the 25 nationwide top pet store, like only one of them sells any animals. I mean, it's really, I think it's the wave of the future. And when we don't talk about this as, you know, we're banning this, or you can't, it's really, we're adopting a humane business model. It's still a very, very profitable, maybe more profitable business model. We're just not playing into this idea that animals are commodities. You know, they're individuals, and they need homes, and that we have a huge amount of animals in Massachusetts that need homes. Absolutely, that the stores that are successful, right, all of those pet supplies, all the stuff that I buy my dog, I'm sure, and cats, I'm sure that you buy your animals. I mean, those are where the stores make their profits. So it's really, you know, not taking away anything. It's really just saying this is slightly different, but it can be as good. We can work with pet stores to talk about it in this really great way of partnership. So I think, you know, it really can be a win-win.
Agreed. Thank you for your good work.
Sure.
Thank you, President Delicio.
Quite welcome. Councilor Dolan, then Councilor Angelo.
Thank you. So I know it started with puppies, cats, dogs, and now we're on to guinea pigs, rabbits, and such. Is there any appetite for the smaller animals as well, like the ferrets, the birds, the geckos? Because, you know, I assume they have needs as well, and they're kind of abundant at the pet stores.
Yes, I think that's a really good question. We always sort of try to balance, you know, the practical part of this too. And so, as I think Allie or Stephanie mentioned, Cambridge is the only one that really impacts almost all animals. I think everything except maybe fish. And we do know at that point we got some opposition from some of the pet stores. So we wanted to, you know, do something that, you know, when we think about this at the State House, do something that we think is reasonable and will stand up, you know, chance to get through, just from the practical aspect, but also, again, you know, working with the animals that we are seeing right now are the most impacted, or could be if a pet store was to move to Attleboro that sold those animals. So that's absolutely not to say that there aren't humane and welfare issues with some of the smaller, you know, animals, and investigations have shown that. And, you know, they're just, unfortunately, you know, the lower price point and things like that, you know, they just, you know, it can be reflected in sort of how they're treated, you know, at the breeders or the distributors and the brokers of these animals. So there are certainly humane issues. We thought this was a reasonable way, and looking at sort of our populations and the animals that in Massachusetts are occupying our shelters, you know, would be an approach to this, but we're certainly willing to talk about that too. But we sort of looked at it from a practical perspective too.
May I? I think that would definitely be a good next step, because what concerns me about small animals like that, you don't have to surrender them to the shelter. Like, you have a dog, you can't, well, most people don't just open the door and let it go. The smaller animals, the birds that are in these tiny little cages for most of their lives, or you hear people that get snakes and they get too big and they just set them free, not to survive, So I think maybe you guys could consider that your next step.
Yeah, we're always, happy to talk about things and think about that. And one of the things that I was saddened by when our shelters shared with me the statistics, when I asked them sort of what's going on with the guinea pigs, and I have some numbers, like a good portion of them were surrendered or found as strays or abandoned. And I was just, we'll take any animal that comes to us. And I just really, if people are just letting guinea pigs out to fend for themselves, I'm sure it's happening with other animals too.
Thank you.
Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. Great points, Councilor Dolan. And echoing on a little bit of what Councilor DeSimone had said, I've been part of some of the adoption events, and in any of these pet stores losing out if they don't do that, because the amount of people that it brings at one day on a Saturday or Sunday is absolutely incredible. And for what goes along with it, because they're not going to just adopt a dog or a cat or a guinea pig. They're getting so much more stuff along, and I've seen incredible amounts go to a store, so that really needs to happen a lot more, which would be way much better business, I feel, than just going in and just a random person going in and looking at one. All of a sudden you get a chance for 20, 30, 40, 50 people.
Counselor, is there a question? I'm sorry.
No, I've said what I had to say.
Just making sure. Thank you.
I think there's a lot of opportunities for cross promotion too, to make it really, good for everybody. Yep.
Any additional questions? Kara, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor?
Kim Penquay, 5 Glenwood Circle, also president of Friends of Attleboro Animal Shelter. I'm very shaky tonight. I have gone through a traumatic experience in my life, and I find this very important that I came out of my hiding to be here. A couple of years ago, we had a dog that was surrendered to us. Sorry, guys, I just lost my husband. Her name was Pixie. She was a merle-colored little tiny thing, and they got it from a pet store. And when you put her down on the ground, she just did circles and circles. So the shelter brought her to 2 neurologists, and it would have been there was nothing they could do. So someone adopted her as is, and we agreed to pay a portion of her lifelong medical care. Unfortunately, she didn't live a long life. You can go into Petco come Easter time and get those bunnies, and then they're everywhere after the fad has gone away, the newness. Thank you. You see it on Facebook. People getting rid of their bunnies, and it's June. You just got them in April. It's all kinds of animals. The puppies that do make it in their way into a pet store, if we could just have a picture of their parents on the front of their cage, we wouldn't buy them. And I'm sorry, I don't consider from an animal store, it's buying them. There's no adopting them. When you adopt, you get that personal touch. The shelters and rescues know their animals. They've spent time with their animals. They're all vetted, spayed and neutered, microchipped, socialized, been through training. It's a benefit to adopt from a shelter. It has such a negative impact on any community to buy anything from a pet store. Like the birds, you know, we get lizards, I'm talking dragons, the dragons. We've had 9-foot red-tailed boas, you know, that are just slithering through someone's neighborhood because they can't afford to feed them because they got to feed them rabbits. It doesn't stop with, you know, the gerbils and, the hamsters, all the little things, because we see it come through the shelter. And if we're lucky, we meet the owners. If not, we walk up to a box on a rainy day, and there's a guinea pig or there's a bunny who didn't deserve to be thrown in that box and thrown, in front of a shelter. But at least they left it at a shelter, they say. But there's a lot more to an animal than is to the eye. All animals are pretty complex, and they all deserve a shot at life. In a pet store, I don't have their application. I don't know who you are. I don't know your veterinary history. Nothing. And I'm not going to bother to look it up because I'm just a $15 an hour employee. At the shelters and rescues, we do that. Because we work hard for our animals, so they never have to see, no matter how nice the shelter is, so they never have to see an inside of a shelter again. Never mind a pet store. I said when I was here last time, for the new animal shelter, is we all have to be their voice, and this gives us a chance to be their voice. From little reptiles to the exotic birds, the canaries, the parakeets, the ones that are so easy to buy and so easy for people to throw away. It's up to Attleboro to say that we're going to be their voice. And I know Attleboro has a great voice, so that was it. You want to talk? You want to talk? Thank you for standing next to me.
Any questions for Kim?
I work for K9 New England in Walpole. We are
Just have your name and address for the record, please.
Robin Phelan, 174 Handy Street, Attleboro. I work for K9 New England. We are a physical therapy facility, but we also do all the sports. Every dog, we're dogs, all dogs. And over the last couple of years, what we are seeing are dogs that are backyard breeder dogs. Your Bernedoodles, your Poodle Doodles, all the doodles they're coming in, and they've got the best and the worst of both breeds. We see a lot of horrible orthopedic, spinal, terrible diseases that these animals are born with. I have a 5-year-old German Shepherd who is absolutely beautiful. His name is Axel. And he comes and he gets underwater treadmill, and he gets laser, and he gets massage, and he's 5, and he was bought in Pennsylvania by a roadside stand that said free puppies for sale, and it was the Amish. And they don't believe animals have souls, so they're not treated well. And the man brought it home for his wife, and this dog now has wobblers. So it's like he has no back end at all, and he's in a wheelchair. So by stopping these backyard breeders, it's really important, and Attleboro just take a forefront on that. Makes my heart feel warm, and I love the city, and I think that that's a great stand to take, because what we see, and I saw a sign coming home from Walpole, and it had doodle puppies for sale, backyard breeders. They're not healthy. I mean, I have a dog that was born in someone's backyard, and he's
Point of order.
6 years. I'm sorry.
I don't know that this ordinance change will impact backyard breeders at all. So.
They're not going to be bought out of pet stores, because that's where they're coming from. They're coming in, the perfect puppy. They're not good breeders. They're people that are making a lot of money by breeding poorly.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Councilor DeSimone, do you see need to keep this public hearing open?
I do not. Thank you.
I declare that public hearing closed. Madam Clerk, would you please read the last public hearing of the evening?
Certainly, Mr. President. Public hearing to discuss Attleboro adopting an inclusionary zoning ordinance as a means of increasing the supply of housing that is available and affordable to low or moderate income households.
Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Thank you. Please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, please.
John DeVerns, 88 Richardson Avenue. I'm just here to figure out what this is about. Just have a simple question. I didn't see any presentation about it, and I don't know if anyone could shed any light on it.
May I present those here?
Councilor DeSimone.
Yeah, if I may speak, I introduced it, and I believe what's happening is, and one of my colleagues from the planning board is here, I think what you're going to see happening is that I put forth the issue for discussion and consideration. I don't know where we're going to go, but I believe the planning board is going to start considering an ordinance. There's a lot of variables involved. I don't know how much, John, you know about inclusionary zoning. There's a lot of variables. The conversation's beginning. If it gets to the point that the planning board or the council and committee decides that an ordinance is a good idea, I'm anticipating we'll have to have another public hearing because it would be an ordinance change, and then we'll have in front of us a better idea of what might happen. But
So-
right now, it's in the early stages.
Is this piggybacking on the in-law apartment amendment that was just, or attempted to be codified?
Well, it's related in that it's housing, but at least in my intent, it's separate because this is, I mean, it is broadening the housing options in the city, so it's in that vein.
Is there a framework that is being considered right now with certain
But
certain zoning?
John, so here's what we'll do. I'm going to.
I apologize.
No, please don't. I think your questions are warranted. I think they're apropos. Councilor Conti is standing in. I was going to suggest that we continue this public hearing until there is something substantial that we can actually hear about.
Terrific.
So, but that was my intent this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay. Do we have anyone else to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Councilor Conti. I'm going to continue this hearing.
Let's hold it open.
Yep, we're going to continue this indefinitely. I would entertain a motion to enter into committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We're now in committee of the whole. Before we get into committee of the whole, I heard from a couple of residents who said, you know, it doesn't make sense. Why are we doing committee of the whole after the public hearings, after the communications, where if you think about committee meetings, we have anyone with guests go first. Public hearings, anyone with guests go first. So Vice President Kobus, Council Conti, and I will be introducing new business next week to change the that order in the rules and procedures. So just didn't want any surprises when we saw that, or questions as to why, wanted to answer any questions why we're doing it this way this evening. That being said, we're now in committee of the whole, and I would ask if anyone has any business to bring before the City Council to approach the podium now. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to arise from committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're now arisen from committee of the whole. We'll now go into a reading of the mayor's communication.
October 4th, 2022, dear municipal councilors. I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Public Works, Michael Tyler, requesting to amend Section 10-5 parking in the revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro for the 11 additional parking spaces that were added to Wall Street. City Solicitor Cynthia Mara reviewed the changes and approved them as to form. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body vote on the following ordinance change in Section 10-5 parking, 10-5.3 time limited on designated places. Insert Wall Street easterly side from Riverfront Drive to South Main Street. Copies in your packet.
Thank you. Traffic and Transportation, and Councilor Dolan, would you like to call for a public hearing on November 1st?
Yes, please.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
I respectfully submit a communication from Economic Development Director Catherine Fierick regarding the donation from the Attleboro Arts Museum of Public Art to complement the city's ongoing revitalization of the alleyways adjacent to the Sanford Street Municipal Parking Garage. The Attleboro Arts Museum was awarded a $10,000 TDI cohort project grant through Mass Development in September 2022. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packet.
City Property and Claims, please.
I I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Park and Forestry, Derek Corsi, regarding the need to pay 3 fiscal year 22 invoices to Amazon Business in the amounts of $29.56, $30.97, and $174.98. A vote authorizing payment is needed to satisfy this debt. There is no transfer of funds needed to pay these bills, as there is sufficient funding in Fund 2607, copies in your packet.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Veteran Services, Ben Quell, regarding the donation of a 3x5 POW MIA flag by the Rolling Thunder, Massachusetts, Chapter 2. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro, copies in your packet.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services,
I
please.
respectfully submit a communication from Health Agent Beth Hallal regarding the need for funds to reimburse Health Department employees mileage for using their personal vehicles due to the lack of vehicles in the Health Department. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $5,000 from account 1124-1000-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1510100-571010 Health and State Travel, copies in your packet.
Finance, please.
I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Victoria Parent to fill an expired term on the Youth Commission, term to expire February 2025, copies in your packet.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Public Health Nurse Allison Brum regarding the need for funds to pay a fiscal year 22 invoice to McKesson Medical Surgical Government Solutions, LLC, in the amount of $136.43. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $136.43 from account 1510100-550030 Health Vaccinations to account 1510100-578020 Health Bill Previous Year, copy in your packets.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Library Director Amy Ringliger regarding the need for funds to pay a fiscal year 22 invoice to SS Service Corp. in the amount of $800. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $800 from account 1610100-524240 Library Maintenance of Equipment to account 1610100-578020 Library Bill Previous Years, copies in your packets.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding an office chair that the Economic Development Office would like to declare as surplus. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for dispositions, copies in your packet. 1 black fabric office chair in poor condition.
City Property and Claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding miscellaneous furniture, equipment, and food service equipment that the Attleboro Public Schools would like to declare as surplus. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare these items as surplus and available for disposition, copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding miscellaneous items that the Attleboro Public Schools would like to declare as surplus in order to donate the items to nonprofit organizations. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following items as surplus and available for disposition.
Let's see. We can waive the rest of the reading. That'll go to City Property and Claims.
Thank you. You know what I'm looking at, Mr. President? 13, I think I'm missing number 12.
I think I'm missing a page as well.
There is,
I have
there should
another-
be one on your,
I have another package. Oh, I didn't get that one. Okay, thank you very much.
Of this one?
That's the one I have.
Virginia left a copy on everyone's desk.
That's the wrong one.
After number 12 I'm missing. So, you must have
Okay, I have it right here. Never mind. Excuse me. I respectfully submit a communication from Health Agent Beth Hallal regarding the need to purchase 2 new vehicles. These vehicles will replace the Jeep Liberty and Ford E350 box truck. Both vehicles were circulated to departments as surplus and have been claimed and are in the process of being transferred.
Let me read waive the rest of the reading.
Okay.
That'll go to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Back where I was. I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Administration Jeremy Stoll detailing the updated state assessments that were released after your honorable body passed the fiscal 2023 budget. The final state and county assessments were $48,666 more than what was submitted during the budget process, and the new amount is $6,437,916. See chart below and enclosed memo.
Thank you. Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication. This is going into the same. From Director of Budget Administration Jeremy Stoll regarding new growth. During the preparation of the annual budgets, assessors across the Commonwealth provided budget officials with a preliminary estimate of the new growth increased in the community's Proposition 2.5 levy limit, so that the preliminary limit can be calculated and a revenue estimate established. However, boards of assessors are then required to report final new growth each year as a part of setting the tax rate. As noted in the budget, fiscal year 2023 is the first fiscal year in which District Improvement Financing, DIF, revenues will be captured and transferred out of the general fund into a separate fund. The actual amount of revenue to be captured into the DIF fund cannot be set until the tax rate has been set by the Department of Revenue. For this reason, an estimated DIF revenue amount of $110,000 was excluded from the new growth addition to the levy for budget purposes. At this time, the Board of Assessors has received a certified new growth figure of $1,478,175. That is a $678,175 above the estimate carried into the originally presented fiscal 2023 budget. When controlling for the $110,000 in DIF bound revenue and increasing the allowance for abatements by $25,000, this leaves $543,175 left to be appropriated.
Finance, please.
Thank you. I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget requesting an appropriation into an opioid settlement reserve account in an amount equal to the amount anticipated to be received and to be accounted for in our local receipts budget for fiscal 2023, funds only. The City of Attleboro is participating in the distributor and Johnson & Johnson statewide opioid settlement agreements. The agreements are wide-ranging, but the largest local effect is payments to the city to be used for prescribed categories of expenses. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $413,753 to account 11241000-578370 citywide reserve for opioid settlement. Copies in your packet.
Public Safety, please.
I respectfully request to amend Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Parking of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro by adding 10-4.18 CD. The need for traffic calming measures and speed control near schools cannot be understated. Although we have a good process in place to install speed humps in our city, it takes anywhere from 6 months to more than 2 years for the approval of a speed hump. This proposed amendment will bypass the established process and expedite the installation of permanent speed humps near schools. Therefore, I hope you will consider this proposal to modify the installation of speed humps near schools. The process would still require City Council approval, still seek input from residents, and still seek a recommendation from the Police Chief, DPW Superintendent, and Fire Chief. This proposed amendment will benefit all city schools from strategically placed speed humps. City Solicitor Cynthia Amara reviewed the proposed ordinance and approved as to form. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body vote on the following amendment to the ordinance by adding the following section to Chapter 10, Section 4.18C. D, the requirements of Section 10-418CA 11 should not apply to any recommendation for placement of a permanent speed hump within 300 feet of a school entrance.
Traffic and Transportation, please. And Council Dolan, would you like to call for a public hearing on November 15th?
Yes, please.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Sincerely, Paul Perot, Mayor.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, will you please go on to the reading of the clerk's communication?
Certainly will, sir. Attleboro City Clerk's communication, Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. We received a letter from Scott Haran, 406 Tiffany Street, in regard to the proposed amendments to Section 17, Table of Use Regulations and Definitions as it pertains to marijuana dispensaries.
Ordinances, please. And
Received.
Madam Clerk, I think on the next one, you can read all the names where they're all in support.
Okay.
And just what they're in support of.
So we have received 5 different letters, and they're all in support of banning the pet stores from selling pets, but providing for shelters and rescues to showcase their homeless animals in their stores. One letter is from Larry Carpenter of 174 Maple Street, Karen Carpenter, 174 Maple Street. A letter from the MSPCA, the Humane Society Animal Legal Defense Fund, and Animal Rescue League of Boston. Lisa Nichols of 720 South Main Street, and Linda Carabaris of 866 South Main Street.
Thank you. That'll all go to ordinances, please.
That concludes the communication from the clerk.
Thank you. We will now go into committee reports, and we'll begin, as always, with Councilor Waterman.
Thank you. License Committee does not have any business this evening, but we will meet at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Works Committee, I have 3 items. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to transfer $3,856.92 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Park Heat to replenish funds used to repair the DEF exhaust sensor on the John Deere roadside mower tractor.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Any comments?
We discussed in committee, it's just replenishing funds that we use for something else.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to transfer $6,276 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Park Heat to replenish funds used to repair the irrigation well pump at Capron Park.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Same thing, just replenishing fund used for something else.
Second.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
President Delicio, may I ask a question regarding the next one?
Sure.
So when I read this in my committee, I had read it in as the pole being on Pleasant Street, which is servicing 209 Pleasant Street, but the actual pole's on Perry. Should I read it as is, amend it, and then read it as amended?
I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
So I'll read, all right, great, thank you. From the docket of September 6, 2022, I move to approve the request of National Grid to install a new 40-foot pole on Perry Street to service 209 Pleasant Street for a new commercial customer.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Nope, this is for the new Taco Bell.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, that's all the Business Public Works Committee has for this evening, and we look forward to a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Before we go to Councilor Conti, Councilor Dolan, would you mind bringing out the 2 motions for Councilor Bennett?
Yes. Reporting for Transportation and Traffic Committee. From the docket of September 20th, 2022, I move to change the public hearing date to October 18th, 2022 in place of the October 4th, 2022 to restrict parking to one side of Frank Mossberg Drive.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any comments?
This is just to move the public hearing.
Okay. This requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of September 20th, 2022, I move to change the public hearing date to October 18th, 2022, in place of the public hearing that was set for October 4th, 2022, to amend Section 10-4.11 of revised ordinances, isolated stop signs, by adding eastbound drivers on Jefferson Street at 5th.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any comments?
None.
This also requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
So I'm sorry, that's all the business for Traffic and Transportation, and, Transportation and Traffic Committee, and we call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. We'll now recognize Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for the Finance Committee, I have 4 motions to present to the council this evening, starting with from the docket of October 4th, 2022. I move to transfer $532.54 from the Citywide Reserve Fund for Transfer account to the mayor bills from previous year's account in order to pay a fiscal year 22 invoice to Murphy Hess Toomey and Lehane LLP.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any comments, Council
Yes,
Conti?
this, as I explained in our committee meeting, this was for one particular lawsuit, and the timing of the legal work crossed the fiscal year, thus the late bill.
Very good. Additional comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote. Begin with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to authorize the Attleboro Public Schools to pay $1,605.35 for the following fiscal year 22 previous year fiscal obligations that were not received in time to be processed in the normal business cycle. The vendor was Balfour A. N. D. Scholastic. The amounts were $11, $1,538.50, and $55.85.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I believe that's self-explanatory.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to accept the $4,305,000 Bristol County ARPA allocation in the form of a grant pursuant to the terms and conditions in the grant agreement for the Lindsay Street Water Main Replacement Engineering, Construction, and Road Restoration Services. In addition, the council votes to approve the expense of such funds and any future grant amendments.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Council Conti.
Thank you, Uncle Sam. That concludes my comments.
Additional comments? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote. Begin with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 18th, 2023, for the purpose of setting the tax classification for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, this is a good thing. To move the tax classification hearing out of November into October is a positive step for the future direction of moving it into September. This moves the supplemental budget, which requires 2 hearings with the council, up into early November, and allows plenty of time for the administration to settle down the tax bills and make the commitment and keep our budget flowing. That concludes my comments.
Well stated. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the business that the Finance Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to a committee meeting at another appropriate time.
Thank
As
you.
I search for my,
And then if you could just call, I don't think zoning has any business tonight, but if you could just call for a meeting.
right, the old business is zoning. The zoning committee meeting is canceled this evening.
Just call for a committee at the next.
Call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, sir. Vice President Cobus.
The reporting for the IT and Infrastructure Committee, we don't have any business tonight. I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Council Reynolds.
City Property and Claims has no business this evening, but I would call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate
Thank you.
time.
Councilor Angelo.
Personal Veterans Human Services Committee has three motions from the docket of October 4th, 2022. I move to approve expending of such funds and future grant amendments regarding the $18,884.57 grant from the Bristol Elder Services to fund COA part-time outreach position. Additionally, transfer $3,332.57 from citywide reserve fund for transfer to account, citywide transfer to grant, and further transfer $3,332.57 to account Bristol Elder COA outreach municipal distribution.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We discussed this in committee.
Additional
Please.
questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to approve expending of such funds and future grant amendments regarding the $4,615 grant from Bristol Elder Services to the COA for a new initiative called Mind and Body Incorporating Technology and Exercise Classes. Additionally, the mayor requests a transfer of $814.50 from citywide reserve fund for transfer to account, citywide transfer to grant, and further transfer $814.50 to account Bristol Elder COA Mind and Body.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
Self-explanatory, we spoke about this in committee.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Cobus.
Yeah.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Yes. Thank you, motion
President
passes.
Delicio. Sorry.
That's all right. You
Hey,
got the
I
count
never
right.
forget. I'm
You
doing
know,
pretty well.
Doing pretty fantastic. Councilor Angelo.
All right, from the docket of September 6, 2022, I move to approve the appointment of Nancy McGuire Heath, 31 3rd Street in Attleboro, to fill an unexpired term on the Board of Assessors, term to expire February 2024.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
We spoke about this at committee. Nancy McGuire, Heath is going to be a fantastic addition to this Board of Assessors.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
That concludes Business and Personal Veterans Human Services. I call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone.
Yes, thank you. Reporting for ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. I have two motions this evening. The first is an amendment of a public hearing. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to hold a public hearing on October 18th for the proposed amendments to Chapter 17 zoning pertaining to accessory, strike that, pertaining to Section 17, strike that, Chapter 17.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order.
Thank you. Forgive the misreading. So what we're doing here, I believe I had previously called for a public hearing on November 1st, but because it has to be a joint public hearing with the planning board, in order to accommodate that, I'm asking that it be moved to October 18th. And this pertains to the commercial vehicle parking on residential areas.
Very good. Additional questions or comments? This requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And next, from the docket of September 6th, 2022, I move to approve the proposed ordinance change regarding solid waste, Section 7-8.
You
Second.
may waive the reading.
I would request to waive the reading, please.
Second.
Granted, motion's in order. Any comments?
No, Cheryl Perry, I think, gave a very thoughtful presentation. The changes are modest and solely to cover the cost of recycling these items, the tires, fire extinguishers, and the mattresses.
Very good, thank you. It will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Yes, that's correct. Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
And President Delicio.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
And that concludes the business of this committee for the evening. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Blair.
Report Public Safety Emergency Management from the docket of October 4th, 2022. I move to transfer $5,989.78 from account 1124100-5783000, citywide reserve fund for transfer, to account 1220100-5300101, professional services, to replenish funds used to dispose of the remaining inventory of PFAS firefighting foam.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Councilor Blair, the motion is in order. Any comments?
We went over it in committee. It's pretty cut and dry.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
And President Delicio.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
I have no other business this evening, Mr. President, but request a committee meeting at the appropriate time next week.
Thank you, Councilor Blair. There is no new business. We have 2 pieces of old business for which I will recognize Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for zoning and land use in old business, I move to alter the following vote number 14 from September 20th, 2022 by removing the word accept and replace with the term grant.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion's in order. Any comments?
Yeah, I'm not gonna read it all. I'm gonna explain that it's, the town of Plainville asked us to grant them a small portion of land to facilitate a hiking trail in their town. And we read it as to accept, and that's not what they wanted. They wanted us to grant it. So this just corrects the Scrivener's error, and I would encourage my fellow councilors to support it.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, I move to alter the following vote number 15 from September 20th, 2022 by removing the word accept and replace with the word grant.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
This is a very similar circumstance on Woodland Development Corporation for easement on a plan of Lawn Street in Attleboro.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
That concludes the old business for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:29.
Or both of you, either of you, are we